and welcome to our Accountability Indicator training. I am Devin Avery, a program consultant in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. Kentucky's accountability system is comprised of 6 indicators. These indicators are state assessment results in reading and mathematics, state assessment results in science, social studies, and writing, English learner progress, post-secondary readiness, quality of school climate and safety, and graduation rate. In this session, we are going to focus on the graduation rate indicator. In this training, I will provide you with an overview of the status component of the graduation rate indicator, including accountability weights and calculations. Then we will discuss information about the change component, including change score calculations, indicator performance ratings, and overall score. Status is defined as current year performance on the metrics used for that indicator. Later in this training, I will demonstrate how to configure the status for the graduation rate indicator. A few key points to begin the discussion about graduation rate. Graduation rate measures the percentage of students who enter high school and receive a diploma based on their adjusted cohort in 4 or 5 years. We will further discuss this in a moment along with the definitions of each. Federal regulations state that alternate diploma students and students who do not graduate count against your graduation rate, and that goes for both 4 and 5-year graduation rates. Schools below 80% on the 4-year graduation rate will be identified as comprehensive support and improvement schools and will be tagged for CSI2 per federal regulations. The next year for identification is 2025. A 4-year adjusted cohort is the number of students who graduate in 4 years with a regular high school diploma, divided by the number of students who entered high school 4 years earlier, adjusting for transfers in and out, emigres, and deceased students. A 5-year adjusted cohort graduation rate is the number of students who graduate in 5 years with a regular high school diploma, divided by the number of students who entered high school 4 years earlier, adjusting once again for transfers in and out, emigres, and deceased students. The 4-year adjusted cohort graduation rate calculation formula is the number of cohort members who earn a regular high school diploma by the end of the current school year, divided by the number of first-time 9th graders in the fall 3 years earlier who started that cohort, plus students who transferred in, minus students who transferred out, emigrate, or have passed away during the last 4 years. The 5-year adjusted cohort graduation rate is calculated in the same way. The only change is that you would be dividing by the number of students from 4 years earlier. A graduation code, also referred to as a G code, has a couple of different entry dates. Regular graduates must have a completed graduation tab and a G code entered in Infinite Campus by June 30. Early graduates are reported with their cohort. Summer graduates must have a completed graduation tab and G code entered in Infinite Campus by July 31st. Graduation rate data will be pulled from Infinite Campus and used to determine the 4- and 5-year cohort data. Now we will talk about the removal from the cohort because that does happen from time to time. If the last enrollment status for a student is any of these, the W-20, which is withdrawal to homeschool, W-21, which is the withdrawal to private school, W-29, which is withdrawal out of state, W-7, which is withdrawal due to medical reasons, or W-8, which is the student is deceased. The student is then removed from both the top and the bottom parts of the adjusted cohort graduation rate formula. This student does not count positively or negatively for the school. Now we will talk about how this all fits into accountability. Basically, it is based on the last primary enrollment in both regular or district-operated virtual or remote learning options. Accountability begins immediately upon enrollment, so there is no 100-day rule with cohort. If a student is enrolled in a district-operated virtual learning option, Their last primary enrollment will code to the district providing the program. Kentucky Educational Collaborative for State Agency Children, or KEXAC students, will be accountable to the state if their license was valid during their last primary enrollment. The graduation rate for the 4- and 5-year adjusted cohorts will be averaged for the graduation rate indicator. Public reporting will apply these rules to district and state reporting. If you are a high school, the graduation rate is 6% of your overall score. Please note that schools with less than an 80% graduation rate for Title I or non-Title I high schools based on 4-year cohort will be classified as CSI 2 in years of identification per federal guidelines. Here's an example of how we find status score for graduation rate. It is the 4-year adjusted cohort plus the 5-year adjusted cohort divided by 2. This number is rounded to 1 decimal place. There are 5 status levels ranging from very low to very high for the current year. Color ratings will include 5 performance levels from highest to lowest. Performance of schools will be reported by levels, elementary, middle, and high as applicable. The school report card will display the color ratings for each indicator to communicate performance of schools, with red being the lowest and blue being the highest. These are cut scores for elementary schools. These are status cut scores for middle schools. And these are the status cut scores for high schools. You will notice that the graduation rate indicator appears in this table. The range for graduation rate is very low, 0 to 85.9. Low is 86.0 to 91.9. Medium is 92.0 to 94.9. High is 95.0 to 97.9. And very high, 98.0 to 100. These cuts were established in 2023 through a standard setting process and have not changed. Change scores are a simple subtraction of prior year status scores from current year status scores. They are calculated the same way for every indicator. Prior year scores are used to calculate the change scores. They are not used to influence indicator performance ratings. Let's talk about change levels. There are 5 change levels ranging from declined significantly to increased significantly. These are the change cut scores for elementary, the change cut scores for middle, and these are the change cut score ranges for high school. Again, the graduation rate indicator appears at the bottom of this table. The graduation rate indicator range is declined significantly, -5.1 or less, declined, -5.0 to -2.1, maintained, -2.0 to 0.0, increased, 0.1 to 2.9, and increased significantly, 3.0 or more. Like the cuts for status, the change cut scores were established in 2023 through a standard setting process and have not changed. Here is an example of how we find the change score. The current year status score of 98, subtract the prior year status score of 97, which gives a change score of 1. Looking at the table on the previous slide, this score would fall in the increased range for the graduation rate indicator. Indicator scores are a simple combination of status scores and change scores. They are calculated the same way for every indicator. It is the current year status score plus the change score, which yields the indicator score. The indicator scores are used to calculate overall scores. They do not influence the indicator performance ratings. Here is an example of how we calculate the indicator score. Current year status of 98 plus our change score of 1 equals our indicator score of 99. The table demonstrates how status and change are combined to get your indicator performance rating. On the left side is your status in the current year, with the levels of very low to very high. across the top of the table is change, with levels of decline significantly to increase significantly. Where your status and change intersect on the table will be your indicator performance rating. This table shows the overall accountability weights set by the Kentucky Board of Education. Once indicator scores have been determined, this table will help us in determining overall score. If any indicator is not available, weights will be redistributed proportionally to remaining indicators. This slide is an example of how the overall score for high school is calculated using the weights we saw on the previous slide. Overall scores represent the combined outcomes across all applicable indicators with appropriate weights applied. The overall performance rating combines performance on the state indicators for elementary, middle, and high schools. These ratings will be communicated using a color rating system where blue represents the highest rating and red represents the lowest rating. The 5 performance levels from highest to lowest are blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Indicator performance ratings are also reported as colors, the result of unique combinations of the status level and change level. They are not based on cut scores. Please note that the public school report card will be released later this year. The initial public release of assessment and accountability data will be an open house. These are the overall performance rating cut scores. These cuts were established in 2023 through a standard setting process and have not changed. On this slide, you will see some resources that are available to you specific to cohort and SDRR. This concludes our training on graduation rate indicator. Additional trainings are available for the remainder of the indicators of Kentucky's accountability system. Please visit each training to learn more about Kentucky's accountability system. Here's the contact information for various directors, program managers, and consultants within the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. If you have further questions, please contact us in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support at dacinfo@education.ky.gov by calling 502-564-4394. Again, my name is Devin Avery. Thank you so much for joining me today.